contribution. And I give the call to the honourable member for Goldstein.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. And I want to begin by saying how important it is to actually have men stand up for women. On International Women's Day, it's a celebration of women's achievement and what women can do, but critical to that is making sure that men have the courage and the capacity to stand up and not to be derided for being able to stand up for women. Now, of course, we know that International Women's Day has been celebrated since the early 1900s, and of course, advancement of the interests of women and fighting for their rights for gender parity has been critical, but no more critical than incredible role models. And Deputy Speaker, I have the great privilege of being able to represent an electorate that is named after one of Australia's most significant women, Vida Goldstein. Since 1984, the division of Goldstein was founded to honour a particularly courageous woman, Vida Goldstein, who was instrumental in winning the right to vote for Australian women 2 decades before the United Kingdom. Vida Goldstein's legacy wasn't just as a suffragette. Her legacy was that she was one of the first women ever to stand for Parliament in the entire British Empire, for the Senate for the great state of Victoria. She had the legacy of fighting not just for the right of women to vote, but the right of women to be able to buy property and enter into marriages on the same terms as men. Some may say that she was the marriage equality advocate for her times. And today we have female CEOs, prime ministers, soldiers and astronauts. Progress is of course visible. Female success through freedom, choice and empowerment is there for all of us to celebrate on International Women's Day. But we must continue to press for more progress. In acknowledging the progress, the 8th of March was also about recommitting ourselves to smashing the remaining barriers to true gender parity in society, in particular the high rates of domestic violence, sexual violence and harassment that many women still endure. A recent ABS survey of 21,000 women shows as many as half of all women in Australia have tragically been sexually harassed, and many of these statistics still have alarming numbers. Approximately 830 women die from preventable causes related to pregnancy and childbirth globally each day. Women also make up 64% of the world's illiterate population. Now, a century ago, Vida Goldstein fought for these foundational rights and freedoms for women in our country. Today, in the same vein, we must take up the battle, and it must be about men and women working together to advance the interests of women. It isn't just a fight for women. We have to fight for women's domestic safety as well as their economic, health and reproductive freedoms. In Goldstein electorate, we are lucky to have many female role models to celebrate, many who we have acknowledged with Australia Day honours this year. Beryle Campbell-Foster OAM from Brighton for her service to women in Victoria, including legal service, the National Council of Women Victoria and the League of Women's Voters Victoria. Faye Haskin-Dubrowin OAM from Caulfield South for service to interfaith relations and to community as the first female president of B'nai B'rith Victoria. Hatice Bazaran from Hampton for her dedication to the preservation of Australian and Turkish military history. And featuring in the Bayside Council Awards this year, we had Millicent Roper and Stevie-Lou Answerth, who are new, up-and-coming women trailblazers. They were the recipients of the 2018 Young Citizen of the Year for their work to develop an inclusive culture at Bayside Schools, including LGBTI students. Meren Reid, who received the City of Bayside's 2018 Environment Award for her long-standing volunteer contribution to Bayside's wonderful natural environment. Similarly, in Glen Ira, we had Cara Morgan from McKinnon, who won the Young Citizen of the Year as chair of the 5th, 6th Central Moorabbin Scouts Venturers. That was along with Leetal Weissman from Caulfield South, who volunteers with Stand Up Encounters mentoring program and tutors Year 8 Sudanese students, while also assisting with Sudanese youth and cultural events. I'd also like to give a special mention to Martine Hart, a fierce women's advocate who was awarded a prestigious Melbourne Press Club Quill Award for Excellence in Journalism. Martine also received a Logie Award nomination as judging this year's Telstra Business of the Women's of the Year Award, and we're very proud to have her as part of our community. She was described by The Age newspaper as an ideal general for the growing female army. Martine uses new media to challenge thinking about the rights of women and girls, and I'm proud to be able to say that we're working with her to try and advance and celebrate women in the Goldstein electorate and the capacity they can have to influence and shape the future of our community, our state and our nation. I'd also like to acknowledge Michelle Ayuse from BlackRock, who is another leading voice working towards a future where women are able to successfully manage career breaks and family commitments, and to recognise the modern reality that women need to be able to make choices and for them to be able to continue with their careers without disadvantage. And lastly, to finish on an optimistic note, and I say this with difficulty as a Melbourne Football Club man, with the Western Bulldogs for taking home the AFL Women's 2018 Premiership over the weekend. It's great to see so many talented young women finally given the opportunity to aspire on our sporting fields. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
I thank the honourable